Come show your glory. Come show your face. Come light a fire in us. Breathe on this place. Your love pursues us, tears down our walls.
Hey, welcome to the house. My name is Wes. My wife Vanessa and I, we're the pastors here, and we just want to say welcome home. We are so glad that you're with us today. However, you are consuming this content, whether on Facebook, YouTube, a friend sent it to you. We just want to say thank you so much for joining us today, and thank you for sharing. Many of you have been sharing these messages online with friends. Thank you so much for that. We've been seeing over the last couple weeks a huge uptick in people, not only here in California, but globally watching our messages. So if you're outside of the Los Angeles area, thank you so much for joining us. We're glad that you're here with us. If you have any questions at all about us as a church, as an organization, who we are, what we believe, how to join us for a service, how you can participate, how you can pray, how you can join us in giving, all of that is found at thehousela.org. And again, I say this every week, if you'd like to join us for an in-person service, we're meeting every Sunday right now at 4 o'clock in Sherman Oaks. We'll throw the address for you up at the bottom, but we would love to see you as well. Today, as part of our summer series, we are continuing in our study on the book of Philippians. If you haven't checked out part 1 or part 2, you can pause this and go back to part 1 or part 2 if you'd like. And we give a really strong introduction into the whole book of Philippians. I'll do a quick recap of that here in a moment. But just want to say thank you so much for joining us. And without further ado, let's jump into the message. As we mentioned in the first week, this letter that Paul is writing to a church in Philippi is in response to their great generosity towards him as a leader in the church. Paul has been arrested for preaching the gospel, and he is in jail. He's in jail most likely in Rome or possibly in Ephesus during this time. We don't know the exact location, but he's in jail in one of these spots, and it is on him to provide for his own meals and all of his own needs. And so this church in Philippi that Paul planted as part of a vision, and you can find this in the book of Acts, where Paul has this Macedonian vision, and Paul goes into the region of Macedonia, into a city called Philippi, and he reaches out to some people, a lady named Lydia and others. They're following the way of Jesus. And so when they hear this little church, sorry if I'm going too quick, when this community has heard that Paul is in need, they send a financial gift through a young leader by the name of Epaphroditus. It's a very difficult name, Epaphroditus. And they send this gift through him, and this is pre-Venmo, this is pre-Apple Pay, none of this stuff is around, there's no digital currency. And so this guy goes on a treacherous journey from the area of Macedonia in the city of Philippi all the way to wherever Paul is being imprisoned with this gift. And so Paul writes this response of this letter called the book of Philippians, and he all throughout the letter, he thanks them for partnership. He says, we're in this together. Thank you so much. And so today, we're going to jump into the end of chapter 1 and all the way up to the beginning of chapter number 2. And if you're taking notes, you can write down this phrase, we are in this together. We are in this together. Philippians chapter 1, starting at verse number 27, says this: above all, you must live as citizens of heaven, conducting yourselves in a manner worthy of the good news about Christ. Then, whenever I come and see you again, or only hear about you, I will know that you are standing together in one spirit, in one purpose, fighting together for the faith, which is the good news. Don't be intimidated in any way by your enemies. This will be a sign to them that they're going to be destroyed, but that you are going to be saved. even by God himself. For you have been given not only the privilege of trusting in Christ, but also the privilege of suffering for him. We are in this struggle together. We're in this together. You have seen my struggle in the past, and you know that I am still in the midst of it. He's still in jail at this moment of writing this letter to them. And he says, is there any encouragement from belonging to Christ? Any comfort from his love? Any fellowship together in the Spirit? Are your hearts tender and compassionate? Then make me truly happy by, and we hear that language of unity again, make me truly happy by agreeing wholeheartedly with each other, loving one another, and working together with one mind and purpose. Don't be selfish. Don't try to impress each other. Be humble, thinking of others as better than yourselves. Don't look out for only your own interests, but take an interest in others too. I want to start this teaching by asking the question, I don't know if you've ever experienced this, but if you've ever had a time where you stop and you ask yourself, why is this so difficult? Is this supposed to be this difficult? Maybe you're taking on a project, maybe you're leading a team at your business, maybe you're working on a relationship and things are just getting difficult and you're looking around and you're going, why is this so difficult? Is this supposed to be this difficult? And if we take that further, a lot of us think of difficulty as bad. If something is difficult, if I'm coming up against opposition, if things are hard, if everyone is against me, something is off. I mean, we'd say the thing, well, just look around. Everyone's mad at you. Look around. Everything is against you. Look around. And so there are times when a deal can be difficult. A relationship can be difficult. Climbing a mountain can be difficult. Going for a run or exercising, all of them are difficult. So how do we know when something is difficult and it's bad or something is difficult and it's good? Because building a skyscraper, building a solid marriage or a solid family, going on a run or an exercise, all of those things are difficult, but they're good. And then you go to the other side and being involved in a toxic relationship or going the wrong direction in your life or going the wrong direction financially, those things are difficult as well. So how are you, how are we supposed to determine whether something is difficult because it's good or something is difficult because it's bad? Think of this phrase right here, and I think that this will help as an umbrella statement for everything that we're talking about today. You are in a fight. Another way to say it, resistance is normal. We have this notion, and maybe you're a part of our church or you're a part of another church, we have this notion, especially within the modern world today, that if everything is right and as long as I'm doing right, there will be no friction. If I'm treating everyone with kindness, if my theology and my doctrine are strong and good, if I'm generous to others, if I'm living out the Jesus way, there will be no friction. We falsely think that friction means that something is off or wrong. We take that even further. We go, if I listen enough, if I ask enough questions, if I do everything right, there will be no friction. But even you can look at the life of the only person who has ever lived on the planet who is perfect and sinless, and you can say you can be perfect and sinless, and people will still yell at you, spit at you, fight you, and crucify you. Paul, in this letter of Philippians, he's talking to a people who have obtained a special citizenship from Rome. Now, if you remember, in week number 1, we talked about that this colony of Macedonia, that it had been the kind of the center of a war that had happened about 100 years before the writing of this letter. And Rome had given special citizenship to all these people because many soldiers from Rome, instead of bringing them all back into Rome, the governmental leaders, they left them there because they said, hey, this could look bad. If we bring in tens of thousands of troops back into Rome, we're just going to give them this land, we're going to give them this territory, and it will become a part of Rome. It's going to feel like almost like your next door neighbor's house growing up. And maybe you've seen it on a movie where, the boys or the girls are playing together and they go into each other's house and fridges. And it's kind of like one big house, even though they're on two different lots, kind of like that. And so Paul is talking to these people in this church in that area saying, hey, you might be experiencing this pushback from the people around you, and that can make you think that something is wrong with you or something is wrong with your beliefs. And Paul reminds them, he says, hey, you have a citizenship from heaven, and the fight is normal. As citizens of heaven, we must remember that it's normal to be in some sort of a fight. I'm not just talking about fist fights or infighting. Lots of churches do that. They fight against each other, but that you are in a spiritual battle. So Paul reminds him, he says, hey, hold on, pause for a second. There's something bigger happening here. Now, we're not talking about conspiracy theories or anything like that, because all the conspiracy theory people are like leaning in like, wait, there's something bigger? There's something happening behind the veil? No, there's something bigger happening. And Paul's saying, hey, look, you are in a spiritual battle. We don't wage war against other people. We're not fighting against them. They're not our enemy, but there's a real devil. There's a real enemy of your soul, and that will create friction in your life. And just because you ignore an enemy doesn't mean that they stop being an enemy. And so Paul tells them, hey, look, you guys are in a fight, and the only way forward as a community is together. He says, we read it multiple times together, where he talks about one spirit, one purpose, one mind, unified. Now, for some people, when they hear the message of unity, they almost kind of jerk the wheel the other direction, and everything is about unity. Unity is like the utmost importance. Unity is the utmost goal, and it's almost that unity becomes the goal. And I just kind of want to, not swing the wheel all the way to that other side of unity is the goal. Unity is not our goal. Unity is our how. Our goal is living out the gospel. Our goal is the Great Commission. Our goal is living the Jesus way. And the way that we do that is unity. Unity is not our goal. Unity is how we are to accomplish that goal. Paul even uses this phrase, we're standing together with one spirit and one purpose. The gospel is our goal, and unity is how we accomplish this together. Paul says we are agreeing wholeheartedly with each other, loving one another, and working together with one mind and one purpose. I think unity is so incredibly important. It's one of our values here at the house. If you were to go look at the last series that we did called Into the Promised Land, we talk about unity, and unity is our responsibility. However, unity is our responsibility, but unity is not our goal. Unity is how we accomplish the goal. The goal is not unity. The goal is the gospel. And unity is how you and I, how we do this together. What this looks like is you and I, we together, even as a community here at the house, we've just decided that there are some things that are not worth fighting for. There's some things not worth getting all, explosive about. Churches are famous for this. They get in huge fights and doctrinal rifts, and, the carpet went from red to green, and let's explode this whole thing. And we know that Jesus, his blood ran red and it wasn't green. And someone else says, no, green is the color of growth. And we want the church to grow. And so they divide the church over a color of carpet. Now, that may seem silly to you, but you know what? In some families, they will divide and they will fight, and they'll fight over things as silly as dietary restrictions in a family. I've heard of friends and family members fighting over dietary restrictions. Some things are just not worth battling over. And the only way that we can move forward together is, number one, is where Paul says we have that same heart. We have that same mind. We have to come together as a community and go, hey, our one goal, our one purpose is living out the gospel of Jesus. And the only way that we can do that together is that if we all agree that is our number one goal. And as our number one goal, we're going to go after the goal together. And you might do it a little bit different than me. And this person might do it a little bit different than him or than her. But the goal is the gospel. And the way that we accomplish that is unity. When we're strong together. The only way that we can be strong is not strong by ourselves and this person's strong and this person's strong, but that together we say we are strong together. We are all going forward in the same direction towards the gospel of Jesus, towards living out the gospel and fulfilling the Great Commission in our city and in our day. And we do that together. So here are four ways, and we're going to wrap this up here. And if you want the elongated version of this message, you can come to an in-person service. 4 ways to create unity. Number 1, remember that we is greater than me. We is greater than me. Because Paul says, don't be selfish. Don't be selfish. Another way, hey, we're building this together. It's not about any person's individual goal and elevating that, but no, we are in this together. Number 2, be happy with who you are and whose you are. Paul says, hey, don't try to impress others. He actually says that to this church. Don't try to impress others. You know, when we try to impress others, you know what ends up happening? We end up trying to bring up the version of ourselves that other person would appreciate or look up to the most. We talk about ourselves. I've done it. You've done it, I'm sure. We talk about ourselves. We talk about the stories that might elevate us in their eyes. Paul says, hey, don't try to impress others. Just be happy with the way God's built you, the way that you are. Just be happy with who you are. Number 3, think about others. Think about others. Paul says, be humble, thinking of others as better than yourselves. Now, humility is not just, oh, I'm a worm, I'm terrible, I'm bad, No, humility is not that, but humility is actually thinking of others more often. What would my friend want? What would bless this person? What would encourage that person? Number 4, and this is where we end, ask more questions. Oh man, I know this is what I really got to work on. Ask more questions. Paul says, don't look out for your own interests. Don't just talk about the things that you want to talk about. If you've been around me, you know I want to talk about In-N-Out. You know I want to talk about the Lakers. You know I want to talk about either the Rams or the Seahawks. You know I want the Rams and the Seahawks. Yes. You know that I want to talk about these things. You know that I want to talk about space or cool things like that or talk about these different things. But Paul says, don't look out for only your own interests, only the things that you want to talk about. He says, but take an interest in others. Ask questions. Hey, how's your week been? What's something that interests you? What's a book or an article or maybe, a journal or something that you've read recently that's really inspired you? What's something that's happened in your world recently that's really encouraged you? And asking not just the surface layer questions of, hey, cool clothes, where'd you get it? But asking the questions about what makes someone else tick, someone else in your community, someone else in your world. Paul says, hey, the only way that we can actually fight for unity, our goal is the gospel, and the way that we do this is through unity. Here's a way to build unity. Ask questions about them. Ask questions about what makes them tick. Let me pray as we'll wrap up this time together today. Jesus, thank you for all my friends watching this today. God, my prayer for us, my prayer for anyone watching, is that we would be a community, that we would be a people who are going after you, Jesus, that we'd be the people who are going after living out the gospel and fulfilling the Great Commission in our day. My prayer for anyone who's watching this also, God, is that you would help them to build unity with those around them. In Jesus' name, everyone said amen. Hey, next week, I cannot wait to share this message with you. We're going to have a great time as we continue on this study in the book of Philippians. Before we end today, I just want to thank 2 different groups of people. Number 1, I want to thank those of you who have partnered with us in giving. I just want to say thank you so much. In the same way that this letter was written in response to say thank you so much for your generosity to the people of Philippi, I want to say thank you so much for joining us in generosity. These last 2.5 years for us as a church have been, honestly, if I could be honest, they've been really difficult, but they've also been really bright, really gospel-centered days. And there's been lots of shaking in the earth. And so I just want to say thank you in the midst of difficulty, in the midst of dark days, that we've been able to be a light. So I just want to say thank you for partnering with us. If you'd like to join us in this partnership, you say, hey, I want to join this church, I want to join this ministry, I want to be a part of this, you can go to thehousela.org and click on that button that says give. You can either give one time or you can set it up to reoccurring. And the second group of people, I just want to say thank you so much. I want to say thank you for sharing these messages. So many of you have been sharing the messages with friends and with family members, and I want to say thank you so much. Our goal is not that we'd be the most popular ministry or that we just want to get a certain number of hits or likes or anything like that. We want to be effective. And so I want to say thank you so much for helping us get that message of Jesus and encouragement out to others as well. Can't wait to see you back next week as we continue on this summer series on the book of Philippians, where we're talking about refresh in the book of Philippians. I can't wait to see you back next week here at the house.